Thursday, May 23rd. It is 10 a.m. Calling the Utilities Committee to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Casey.
Present.
Spencer.
Present.
Bishop.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Harsh.
Here.
Kelly. Valencia. Mr. Chairman, you have a vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And just note that Councilman Palencia called me this morning, and he's on his way, but he'll be late. Director, we're going to jump right into this. Ordinance number 446, 2024, by Council Members Casey and Griffin, by departmental request, an ordinance to amend sections 535.04, 535.05, and 535.06 of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance numbers 178-2022, passed October 25th, 2021, relating to water rates, affordability programs, and fees and charges for water service. This is our rate study that was done. Director, if you have any opening statements, and then if you could introduce your team here today.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. We are continuing the conversation on Ordinance 446, 2024. Joining me here at the table this morning, Catherine Troy, CFO, Department of Public Utilities, Andrew Burnham, Fritz Stantec, David Heider of Stantec, and Commissioner Mark Gavish, is the Division of Water. The presentation that we presented 2 weeks ago was shared again. I don't know if it's on the tablet, but the conversation that we had, I thought it was important to get the consultants that work closely with fiscal and the whole team in developing the rate ordinance and the recommendations before you today. And I would hand it over to CFO Troy for any further specifics.
And before we get going, council members, the presentation that was presented 2 weeks ago is on your tablet, so if you want to take a look at it again. Troy?
We worked very closely with Stantec over the past year to make sure that the water and water pollution control were set up financially for the next 5 years, making sure that we are cognizant of the challenges of the environment that is in Cleveland, as well as the water and sewer environment overall. That is actually what we've brought our consultants to talk about today, to see how the overall Cleveland Water and WPC work within the industry overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So if it's okay, I would give it over to Stantec, just a little bit about the background and the kind of the industry standards that we aim to follow.
Thank you. Gentlemen, when you talk, the mic is not for us here at the table, basically, but it's for TV and the viewing audience. So if you could just talk into the mic so that we make sure we pick up every word you guys say.
Very well. I'll do my best to do that. So good morning. Andy Burnham with Stantec. I lead our management and technology consulting group. And really, I wanted to set the stage for some industry context. As Marty and Catherine were pointing out, we work with over 400 community utility systems in the area of utility rate studies, which represent over 30% of the U.S. population. So we're very well versed in a lot of the industry trends. We wanted to share some of that in the industry standards and practices that we're seeing today against some of the context of your local study that Dave will go over. So when we think about municipal water and sewer systems that we see across the country, that we work with, and that notable groups like the American Water Works Association and the Water Environment Federation follow and have as members, we see a lot of common challenges and themes. Aging infrastructure and continuing to reinvest in infrastructure is very key and has been and continues to be a driver for municipal water and wastewater systems because they are very infrastructure intensive. The above ground assets we know about, but it's the below ground assets in particular that have been well documented as requiring increased levels of investment, and that remains an ongoing challenge that many systems are trying to address. Another challenge that's been present and continues to occur is changes in water use. Customers are becoming more aware of water use. Appliances and devices are becoming more efficient. So changing water demands is an important aspect of factoring into financial plans for a lot of the utility systems, and major changes in those demands can have impacts because many of our costs stay fixed even though customers' usage patterns may change. But some of the more recent drivers that we've seen on utility rates have come really post-pandemic around inflation and rising interest rates. And so over the last 3 years, we've seen municipal borrowing interest rates increase by 50% from 2020 to 2023. We've also seen key cost requirements change. So water treatment chemicals, as measured by the Federal Reserve economic data from that same time period, has gone up over 30%. Key materials like plastic pipe has gone up over 130%. Construction costs have gone up over 40%. And as we work with utility systems across the country, we see these things bear themselves out, in many instances resulting in very near-term acute increases in rates because they haven't been able to factor in that type of inflation happening that fast into their financial plans. And so many agencies we're working with across the country, I'm doing a study in Flagstaff, Arizona right now, they're looking at 10% a year increases on the water system, 20% increases for a few years on the wastewater system. Utilities in Florida that we work with are looking at double-digit increases on their water rates for 2 years, over 20% on sewer, and another double-digit increase the year after that. So we're seeing this throughout the country as this acute pressure on rates because of those interest rates and inflation. But as Dave's going to tell you, we're in a bit of a different situation here in Cleveland because of our proactive financial management and the way we've been managing our resources. We still have challenges that we need to address, but fortunately here, they're just not quite as severe as what we're seeing in other parts of the country.
Thanks, Andy. Stealing my thunder there a little bit. Yeah, so we were, excuse me, we were concerned at the start of the study, just given the what we're seeing around the country in terms of inflation and recent increases in costs. But we're happy to report that here in Cleveland, due to good proactive management, both CWD and WPC are in good financial position to be able to address many of the concerns that Andy mentioned earlier. Particularly on the CWD side, over the past 20 years, you've invested about $1.5 billion in the infrastructure, which has really put you in a great position to be able to have a sustainable utility. We look at a lot of utilities around the country. If you look at Baltimore or some of the older utilities, they've really been playing catch up and having to do some pretty significant increases in order to catch up and reinvest in their infrastructure. So that's really been key. But that's not the case here in Cleveland, particularly on the water side. You're in a really good position financially. And in addition to that, you've also paid down a lot of your debt service. So you've paid off about $430 million worth of debt over the past 10 years. So that puts you in a great financial position to be able to take on additional debt if you need to in the future, which really, again, puts you in a position to be able to handle some of these increases in costs that Andy mentioned. And so what we've proposed and what's projected for the water system is the 3.5% increases over the next 5 years. And that's essentially addressing these inflationary increases that Andy talked about. So that really is a key driver, and that's the primary reason on the CWD side. On the WPC side, I think it's well aware that you are playing a little bit of catch-up in terms of reinvestment in the system. We're trying to get to the point where you're reinvesting to about 1% replacement of your system assets over time. And you've made good progress towards that. And what's projected is an 8.5% increase over the next 5 years for WPC that would allow you to continue on that trajectory where you'd be able to reinvest in the system and take care of those depreciating assets. Big portions of your collection system on the WPC side are well over 100 years old, and so it's important to make those reinvestments. But it is refreshing to work in a community that's been so proactive in terms of taking care of the assets, particularly on the water side, and just playing a little bit of catch up on the sewer side. But again, fantastic, prudent financial management of the utilities has taken place over the last several years, which really puts you in a solid position to be able to just have pretty modest increases in bills. And I did want to mention, in terms of the city of Cleveland, you're looking at, with those 3.5% increases in water bills, it's only about a little bit less than $1 a month increase. So pretty minor on the water side. On the sewer side, it's between $1 to $1.50 per month in terms of change. So pretty minimal. I know that percents can sometimes be scary, but in terms of the dollar amounts, it's pretty minor. So with that, I'll turn it back to Director, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks again, Chairman, and I'd like to say that we didn't pay them to say those good things, but we kind of did. But a strong working relationship with Stantec, obviously industry leaders across the country, and with Troy's team and the Commissioner's team on the operations side. It's been a lot of work bringing into this. There's a lot of data and projections that are made that were reflected in the PowerPoint on your tablet. But certainly any questions that the committee has, we're happy to address at this time specific to Cleveland Water.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to our presenters. I just have a couple of questions. Where's Stantec based out of? Where are you guys from?
So Stantec has about 400 offices across the globe. About 200 of those are in the U.S. So our U.S. headquarters is out of New York, and then in Canada, our headquarters and corporate headquarters is in Edmonton.
All right, do you have a local office here?
We do have a local office here in Cleveland as well. So
Where's
all
that
major
at?
cities. So the address, Dave,
It's right next door.
it's literally right next door.
Do you know?
Well, I'm turned around. It's this way.
Yeah.
Yes,
East
this
North
way.
Point building?
Yes.
Yep.
It's in the North Point building.
Where Winking Lizard is now?
The Galleria? It's in the Galleria, or is it where the new one is?
The new one. It used to be the Penn Media Building. I don't know what it's
Okay,
called now.
so you're right across the street?
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. And then the 3%, you mentioned 3%, 3.5% increase and an 8% increase. That's over the 5 years, correct? That is not per year.
No, it is per year.
It is
So
per year.
3.5% for water, 8.5% for WPC, and that is annually, so every single year.
All right, because on here, under the recommended rate plan, I see the fixed charge, right? So the fixed charge in 2024 is $950, in 2025 is $985, and then 2026, 27, 28, and 29, it's recommended not to change.
That's correct, yeah.
Chairman, as
So-
was discussed, I'm sorry to cut you off, but on the fixed charge, again, that's what a customer can't control. So it was our intention on making the recommendation to keep the fixed charge, which again, I think our partners at Stantec can address the reasons for a fixed charge, why they exist. But on our position was to try to keep it as low as possible because a customer, those affordability indexes and those other things that we work very closely with our customers on, you can't decrease a fixed charge, right? But that's why that percentage then is zero after 2027. We wanted to keep it below $10 essentially.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, to the committee, I'm going through myself. To the director or to our representatives from Stantec, the 3.5% and the 8.5% are not on that's not the increase on the fixed rate, that's on the usage, correct?
That's really the overall increase. So the fixed rates, as Marty mentioned, those are held flat, and the usage rates are going up by slightly more than the 3.5%. They're going up by 3.75%, as you see, but the average increase in revenues is 3.5%. And it's a similar dynamic with WPC as well, where the
Okay.
fixed charge has an increase initially, but then is held flat, and the usage rate is going up by a higher percentage, but the overall increase is 8.5% per year.
And then, to the director, or our commissioner, or Troy, the average household in the city of Cleveland uses how many MCFs per month?
The average use is 0.5 MCFs per month.
Okay.
So our customers are expected in water to expect a 2.9% increase annually.
Okay,
Of the 3.5%, they're actually only receiving 2.9%
all right.
increase.
And then the increase is based on 0.2 MCFs, correct?
The first block is 0.2 MCF,
Right,
Mr. Chairman.
right.
That's
So-
what you're
okay.
asking.
All right, yeah, so if I use, I'm just going to, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So Tier 1, which is the city of Cleveland, correct?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Chairman.
Tier 1, the city of Cleveland. So city of Cleveland resident is being charged $22.65 per 0.2 MCFs, right? Right, so if I use 0.2, if my
Right,
household.
currently,
Right,
currently, correct.
currently, right. So if my household only uses 0.2 MCFs, my bill's going to be for $22.65 plus the $950 fixed rate.
Correct.
Councilman, it's 2265 times 0.2,
Okay,
so I think it's 465 at the moment. And then plus the fixed fee. So those Cleveland customers would get, if they were using 0.2 MCFs, they were paying 20% of the 2265,
do you just know
which
how
I think
much
it's,
that
I
is?
think it's 465. I don't know for sure. I didn't do the math recently, but I believe it's $4.65 for consumption. And then you would have the fixed fee charge, which is currently $9.50.
So how much would my bill be if I only use .2? Guesstimate, right around.
$14.
$14? Okay, and I ask that because when we look at this, that's the way it looks as if I said it, right? So if I only use .2 MCFs, my bill's going to be $22.65. If I use 4, then my bill's going to be $45. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, yes.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not quite there on the math, almost. So the
Yes.
why are we multiplying 2265 by .2?
So the 2265, through the chair to the councilwoman, the 2265 is if it was at a full MCF. So to have it consistent with the tier 2 portion, so you can see those numbers being consistent. So it's $22 for the first point, per MCF for the first .2, and then after that, it is $38.49.
All right. And then instead of looking at the recommended rates, if we go right down underneath to the sample bills, I guess it does say that if you use .2, you're $14.03. But did we answer the question on what the average, did you answer what the average Cleveland customer uses, .5?
0.5, which is the second
Okay,
table,
all right,
the second table, or the second from the bottom
okay,
on that same slide.
all right. And then it also looks, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you. And on that point, if that .5 would be the tier 2, so $38.49 per MCF, through the chair, for tier 2, for anyone over .2 MCF.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, the first .2 MCFs is at the tier 1. Anything above that goes into the tier 2 rate. So yes.
Okay, more math. Thank you.
Whether you're a
Thank you.
Cleveland resident or not?
Everyone that uses the system has 2 tiers. We have service levels that differentiate. So first service level is the suburbs that don't really that aren't high in elevation, and then there's second and third tier depending on how far away they are from our treatment services.
All right, I guess my question would be, is water less expensive to use in the city of Cleveland than it is?
Chairman, yes, it is. It is less expensive to receive water in Cleveland than any of the surrounding areas.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's what I was getting at. All right, I have no other questions. At this time, I'll open it up to questions from my colleagues. Councilwoman Spencer.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think my math questions have been answered, so thank you for teeing that up. I appreciated when we met as a committee previously that I thought the presentation was really comprehensive. I appreciated the comparison between cities to see where Cleveland would land even with a proposed rate increase. All of that was very helpful information. One point I want to make sure I take away from today's discussion is what happens after today, presuming the committee approves this piece. If we do, what are the next steps? And then more specifically, how do the customers get communicated to? And what does that rest of the process look like from here?
Director.
Through the chair.
Thank you, through the chairman to the council member. So depending on what the ordinance says, we will meet with the Suburban Council of Governance, and we have a meeting scheduled later this month, I believe,
31st.
where we will present this presentation essentially including the other tiers as CFO Troy outlined. Once passed, we will have a communication strategy both in the bill as to what a customer can expect starting in January. But the rates wouldn't come into effect until January of 2025. So between whenever it's passed, if it's passed, and that time, there will be bill inserts. We will meet with the Suburban Council of Governance and continue to try to just educate all of our customers, not only on an anticipated rate change, but also on our affordability programs and also our conservation programs and how you can lower a bill, right? You lower a bill by using less water in this instance, and we do have a strong conservation program through CHN, and we're out utility resource fair last weekend with all of the flyers and all of our customer account services staff working with customers on how best to manage their utility burden.
That was my primary question, Mr. Chair, and I'll allow other members to go from here.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have two quick questions through the chair to the director. Is Stantec's role in here at the behest of the utilities department as just an abundance of caution to have consultants come in and just give us an objective look at it, or is this a requirement from the state or some other federal government or something? I just don't know.
It's not a requirement of the state. We got council authority to get consultants for each division, anticipating we know our current rate ordinance expires.
Sure.
So historically speaking, and best practice is to bring in a third party to evaluate how we do things and then make recommendations on how to do them better.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, maybe through the chair to the director, the customers of Cleveland Water, which is, I think, all the first, second, and most of the third ring suburbs as well, they have no municipal say in this. When we pass this, they're still customers. They pay their bills, and we just move along happily, and they don't really have any say in any of this, right?
Well, and through the chairman of the council member, I mean, through our agreements with a lot of the suburbs, the rates are dictated. So as Cleveland's rates increase, it has to be consistent across the different tiers. So their say is, in most cases, already memorialized in the water service agreement that we execute with the municipalities. So that's the billing, the percentage difference between first high, second high, and then the assurance that these are cost of service rates. This is the cost that it costs us as Cleveland Water to get clean, fresh, high-quality water to your residents.
Okay. And on that note, Mr. Chairman, I've always been impressed with the level of competence in which our water department is run. Director Marjavicius is fantastic, and I'm always amazed at the professionalism and the thoughtful, forward-thinking nature of this department, and I have no reservations in supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Harsh. Councilman Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just want some clarification here about the monthly consumption usage. Can you explain to me, like in layman's terms, why the first bit of water you pull out the tap is cheaper than the second batch of water you put out? Like you say 0.2, right? The first 0.2 is much cheaper than the second 0.2. Can you explain that to the members of our community?
Director?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, to the councilman. I would ask the commissioner, but also to Stantec on that 0.2 differential.
Yeah, certainly, that first tier or block is considered the lifeline unit, the sort of the minimum amount that someone could potentially get by on. So there's affordability considerations in charging that the lower rate. And then for folks who use additional water, and especially commercial users that use a lot, their cost is closer to the true cost of service, if you will. So that first block it's essentially an affordability consideration.
Okay, all right. So, all right, I can understand that quite well. But so explain to me or to the listening public, how much would 0.2 cover? Like if you just took a shower once a day, or how many would that cover like a family of two, or would that cover just one person? Would that cover 3 people? On average, can you put that in that term?
Councilman, I've asked this question before because I don't think anybody realizes how much 0.2 MCFs are. Could you break MCFs down into maybe gallons?
Yeah.
We understand gallons more than we do MCFs.
So an MCF is 1,000 cubic feet. That's what the M is, the old Latin for 1,000. 1,000 cubic feet, 7,480 gallons. So 0.2 MCF is about 1,400, 1,500 gallons, something like that.
About 1,400 gallons?
Yes.
And so the average, do you know how much the average person in gallons use on a monthly basis? I know that might be a variable, but do we have that figure? I mean,
So through the chairman of the
and
council.
I asked this question because I want to folks that's getting their water bills, let's say like a single person in the household, and they call us and it's like, why my water bill so high? Well, how many people do you have in your household? And so I want them to kind of understand more. So
Maybe through the chairman of the council member, I know that in the census data, an average household in the city of Cleveland was over like 3.6 or something. So if you correlate that with what we know to be an average bill in the city of Cleveland, which is 0.5, so, I mean, does that help at all? The thousands of gallons is kind of hard to explain, right?
Right.
I don't know how many, when the kids are home from college, how many gallons. I know it's a lot more.
Right.
But I have no idea how much it is. But we know that the average monthly bill is 0.5 MCF, and our lifeline rate is the 0.2. But I would ask Stantec to weigh in just from an industry, because this, again, is standard in the industry.
Yeah, if I may, through the chairman to the council member, the general indoor usage profiles for residential homes depends on their fixtures, but you'll see ranges, maybe 30 gallons a day to 50 gallons a day per person. It depends on, again, the lifestyle that those folks are doing as well. So oftentimes we'll see a 1 or 2 person household use about 1,000 to 2,000 gallons a month. So that's kind of right where that tier 2 break point lives, is that kind of 1 to 2 person usage levels. If it's just a single person, they'll probably be below that by themselves. 2 people, they'll probably be right around that dollar amount, or excuse me, that amount of usage. And then a family of 4, if you kind of double the math, that's kind of where that 0.5 MCF is, about that 4,000 gallons a month. Would be kind of around a family, of 4 with indoor use only being considered. So that just kind of gives you some general profiles, but every household is different in terms of, do you have teenagers taking multiple showers? What's your lifestyle? Are you traveling? How often are you home? What types of fixtures do you have? So it's highly variable, but those are just general kind of ranges, or I don't want to say rules of thumb, but pretty typical profiles.
okay, thank you. And through the chair, if this thing passes, and we do our due diligence to kind of enlighten the public, that the rates are coming, the rate increases are coming, and this is what you can do. Are we going to put it like a guide or a suggestions of how you can conserve water to get around that 0.2, 0.5? Limit your showers to 3 minutes, or cut your shower time down. Are we gonna put that kind of information to our consumers of Cleveland Water?
I have 5 ladies that live in my house. How am I supposed to limit them to 3 minutes?
Chairman, to the council member, yes. And we do, all of the events that we go to and Chief Jackson's team goes to has the brochures. The big thing is internal plumbing and fixing it when something is broken. It is amazing how quick these bills shoot up when there's just the flapper on the toilet, or the silcock outside gets cracked in the winter, freezes. Regular maintenance, inspection and maintenance of internal plumbing is huge. The conservation programs through CHN, and all of those we do advertise, broadcast, along with the affordability programs, LIWAP. The council's legislation for the amnesty is still kind of alive. There's still some dollars left in there that we're trying to help people, but we do a lot in the community to try to promote conservation, affordability, and those things that you can do yourself to manage your bills.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Harsh. And then, Bishop, I'm sorry. You look so much alike. Director, is there any summer programs that are available, like for people who need to fill a pool or want to water their grass every day or every other day? Are there any summer relief programs?
Yes, Chairman. So the summer sprinkling program is an affordability measure in the summer, and then the hydrant permit is typically what we recommend for
Right.
the pool. The commissioner can work on the hydrant.
And to clarify, the summer sprinkle program is regional sewer district. Okay? The sewer
On the
bill is
conservation,
lower.
or on the sewer.
And now you do have to opt into that. But once you opt in, they do not charge you sewer usage that's in excess of your off-summer usage. So if you use .3 in the wintertime and .5 in the summer, they only charge you .3 in the summertime on the sewage rate. The argument being that that extra usage is not going into the sewer. So there is a bargain on that, correct?
And I know that's the regional sewer district, and we're not the regional sewer district. Would you happen to know if that program's, if you're still able to opt into it for the summer or not?
I do not know for
Okay.
sure if there's a deadline on that.
Okay. Councilman Polensek.
Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the director and to the folks that are here at the table. I think we all know that the importance of the division of water. I know I certainly do. And I've said it repeatedly at the table. When I came into the body, the conditions that we found, those of us who came in, the new group that came in that wave many, many years ago, we came across a system that was in dire straits, needed major capital repairs. So we had to make some very difficult and tough decisions then, and we did it. And I think we saw and we've seen the end results. We've seen the system substantially improve to today, where I believe we have one of the best systems in the country. But that being said, I'm concerned, as all my colleagues are, about additional costs being passed on to our residents and to our consumers and customers within the entire Cleveland water service area. So I have a couple questions. So as of this point, what is our overall debt for the division?
Director?
Through the chair to the councilman, it's about 370 million, I believe, as of the end of 2023.
Okay. And so as a percentage of the operation, do we know what that outstanding debt is as a percentage?
Director?
Our annual payment for 2024 is going to be about 65 million, and our total operating budget for 2024 is about 350 million.
Okay. So I'm looking at our overall debt. I'm looking at our overall revenue. And so I want to just drill down on a couple other questions I have here. So when you look at use of unencumbered cash and your projections from 2024 through 2029, why is there such a drop-off in unencumbered cash and so significantly?
Director or CFO?
Through the chair to the councilman, are you talking about slide 6 from the presentation previously?
I'm going to look at, I don't know, I don't see it. Let me see. Yes, yes.
Okay, so if that is what we are currently seeing, Cleveland Water obviously wants to continue to invest into the system. So this is if rates are not passed. If you look on the next slide that you have,
Yeah.
that is what we anticipate if the rates are approved by this council.
So what you're telling us, that unless the rates are increased, your overall use of unencumbered cash is going to significantly drop off. Your
Availability, yes.
yeah, availability. Okay. Now I would question, because it's such a significant drop, and again, you're attributing that to just due to capital repairs or increased costs for materials, supplies, et cetera? Because, I mean, that's a dramatic drop.
So through the chairman of the council member, again, that is assuming that the rates remain unchanged.
Yes.
And we continue to invest in infrastructure as we currently do. So without changing, and I believe that Stantec outlined all of the pressures on utilities across the country that are causing that to happen. So I don't know if you wanted to readdress that.
Sure, and the forecast, if I may, through the chairman to the council member, the forecast there of increases in cost reflect inflation on both operating and capital expenses that we're seeing. And so over time, as the revenues on those unencumbered cash chart forecasts stay flat without a rate increase, the expenses would exceed that. So what this is basically saying is that for the expense requirements we have today, as adjusted by inflation for operating and capital, if we don't make any changes, then we would have to use that unencumbered cash to meet those requirements. And that's a similar extent for the WPC, although it's greater there because we're increasing the level of capital reinvestment as well for underground infrastructure, so that gap is a bit wider when you look at WPC versus CWD.
Is, within the overall system, is consumption up or down?
Down. Chairman to the council member. Down.
That's, is there any area within the system, I'm assuming you track, or you have the ability to track municipalities, or especially where there's master meters, is there any area within the system that is growing significantly?
Through the chair to the councilman, during COVID, we definitely saw increases in our outlying suburbs. We contributed it to the fact that downtown was pretty much vacated and
Right.
everybody was working from home and everybody was filling their pools and finding anything to do at home, watering their gardens. And as we've been seeing everybody coming back into the system, it has been starting to level back out.
Okay.
But there has still been an uptick in the second and third service levels.
Okay. Obviously, the outer edge suburbs and communities.
Yes, even the first district, or the first service level, they evened out. They didn't drop it, they didn't significantly drop.
Okay. I'm trying to look at the big picture here, because obviously, all of us around the table are dealing with families that are under great stress, economic stress. We're going to be confronted with a school levy request very shortly. I'm not aware of what else is coming down the pike, anything being proposed by the county or whatever. So I'm looking at trying to be very mindful, as I've always been when I sit at this table and in this body, as pertains to the costs that we ultimately pass on to the consumers, our customers, because I take my councilmatic hat off. I'm a customer, I'm a consumer, and I'm very much concerned of my bills that I look at home. In fact, I was just looking at my water bill and sewer bill. And so I want to make sure that whatever action that the administration is recommending, and again, to the viewing public, the administration is recommending the rate increase to the city council. This is not being originated here within the body. So I want to make sure what you're proposing is accurate, is in line with what we're attempting to achieve here to maintain a quality water system. So my next line of questioning is going to be, where are we with accounts receivable? What is the outstanding amount at this point?
Director or CFO?
Through the chair to the councilman, our accounts receivable has been has been brought back down to pre-COVID levels, which I believe is about 45 million of active accounts.
Okay. So have you, educate all of us at the table, so when you say active accounts, are there accounts that you wash off your books after a period of time where there's absolutely no collection, no ability to collect, or you have not collected?
There is, but active accounts means anybody that is currently in the house. So if I were to move out of the house, my receivable portion would be part of the inactive portion. So we are still actively trying.
Okay.
Cleveland Water is still actively trying to collect that money.
So where we have, Mr. Chairman, to whoever can address that, where we have properties where they're severely delinquent and abandoned, or we cannot locate the owner, what legal action do we take on those properties?
Director?
Chairman, to the council members, so certainly we terminate service to those
Okay.
customers when the bill becomes arrear. We are still working through the severance process, getting back to pre-pandemic. But as the CFO testified, we are getting back to the pre-pandemic accounts receivables. So that's a snapshot in time. Some customers just can't pay last month's,
I
or they
understand
get in
that.
arrearage.
Right.
So that includes that 45 number that CFO Troy shared. But we have reinstituted the severance process for customers who fall too far in arrearage, and we do terminate service.
Are we putting liens on any properties?
Chairman of the council member, we are not putting liens on residential properties,
Okay, that are occupied.
period.
So if a house is abandoned, you're putting no lien on there? No lien on that property for the delinquent water amount?
For the chairman of the council member, that's correct.
Why would you not?
Chairman of the council member, at this time, we're evaluating the approach that is allowed us by the Ohio Constitution to make sure that we're treating our customers fairly.
Well, but your customer hasn't treated you fairly because they haven't paid their bill. And there it has a massive delinquent amount. I mean, I've seen some water bills on some properties that are like, what? You think they're running a car wash. And they're delinquent. And so at the end of the day, I encourage all my residents and anyone who's watching this, I encourage everyone who's having a difficult time paying their water bill to put something down. Make some effort, put something down. Don't ignore it. But $45 million is a lot of money, accounts receivable. That's a lot of money. And I think we have to take whatever action, because I was dealing with a gentleman 2 weeks ago who's living on $975 a month. And, we're on the phone, we're talking, and he's on the HEAP, or, he's on all those support programs. But I'm talking to this gentleman, and I'm thinking, how do you live on $975 a month? He's on disability. I've tried to plug him into some other programs, and we're talking how, he's struggling to pay his utility. But what's significant, that he's making every effort to pay his utilities. And you could hear that in his voice and the way he approached the way we talked on the phone. He's not ignoring his bills. He's doing what he can. See, those are the folks I want to help. But these folks that have just totally are not paying their bills, and they haven't paid their bills for years, then those folks have to be dealt with, in my opinion. That's me speaking. I pay my bill. I do my best to pay my utility bills every month. That's the way I was raised. That's the way I saw my mother. And the people that I deal with every day in my neighborhood, and some folks are struggling, as this gentleman was, to pay his bills. And I just want to make sure that where we have properties where there's thousands of dollars owed on those accounts, that it's one thing to shut their water off, but it's another thing to go after the property. And I can't say enough. I mean, especially with these LLCs that owe a substantial amount of money, we should be putting a lien on the property. It's not like we're not putting a lien on Mrs. Jones's house because she's having a hard time paying. But it's these people and these companies that have just refused to pay, especially these limited liability companies again. There should be a lien put on their property.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, on that
Thank
point?
you. No, we're not going to talk liens on properties at this point.
Well, Mr.
We can-
Chairman,
we-
but we're
hang-
asking
what-
our residents to assume an increase in their water bill.
I understand, but this is a conversation we can have
Yeah.
off the table, that I'd be more than willing to have this conversation with anybody away from the table. And we can have that discussion later on. Director, how many accounts are there in Cleveland Division of Water, residential, total accounts, and then if we could break it down to residential versus commercial?
Chairman, there's about 440,000 accounts. Of that, I believe
About 16,000,
I was
something
going
like
to say
that,
15 or
commercial
16,000 are
accounts.
commercial.
And of those, about 4,000 are fire line accounts, unmetered fire lines. The rest are metered large commercial accounts.
All right, so we have to remember, as we sit here at Cleveland City Council, one of the unique things about the water department is that it is so regional, right? And that's, you know, we're the 10th largest water system in the country. So the good thing about the city of Cleveland owning it, and myself and the director have had a number of conversations regarding this, is that anybody who does find themselves in financial need when it comes to your either Cleveland Water, and I'll throw Cleveland Public Power in there as well, we're not in the business of shutting people off. We're in the business of providing a service and assuring that our residents receive what we deem necessary. And if you do get in trouble or behind in your bills, I think I can safely say we are not going to shut you off, either power or water, as long as you reach out to the Division of Water or Cleveland Public Power and make some sort of arrangement with either of those entities. Councilman Harsh wanted, first of all, anybody else? Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question to the director, to anybody else. Here, you have the scope of work. You're going to be doing certain repairs on different wards. Does this have anything to do with the rate that's, dealing with the rate of, recommended rate that's going up or down? Is this 4.4, is we talking about 4.43?
446.
446,
Okay.
Councilmember.
446? Okay, I'm sorry, wrong one. All right, that's, no
But
question.
to the same question on, yes, what we're hoping to do is continue the level of improvement to the system, and these rates support those capital improvements in the city of Cleveland and throughout our service area. So the scope of work is to continue to improve, through the chairman of the council member, the infrastructure
Yes.
to allow for based on prudent financial management, at some point not to have a dramatic increase in rates for our customers. If we do it steadily and conservatively as best we can, with the support of council, what we're trying to avoid are any dramatic increases to our customer as a result of lack of infrastructure improvement.
Okay, all right, sounds good, thank you. Because this is going to help reduce the rate from the scope of work that's going to be done in the other wards across city of Cleveland.
Through the chairman of the council member, we hope through the conservation conversations and the outreach, we can assist in reducing the bill on a customer, but the rate of the water that goes through the meter will go up if passed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Clarify
All right,
that.
thank you, Councilwoman Gray. Councilman Harsh, wanted back on.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Councilman Bishop asked a great question. It's hard to visualize numbers, and I did some quick napkin math. And if a MCF is 7,000 gallons and 0.2 is 1,400 gallons, that's roughly 28 50-gallon drums. I think we've all seen a 50-gallon drum, right? A 50-gallon drum is 2 feet wide by 3 feet tall, and this table is 4 feet wide by about 3 feet tall. So if you were to line up 50-gallon drums and run them from that end of the table to that end of the table, that's roughly equivalent to the amount of water the average Clevelander can use at a discounted rate before they pay that next tier. It's essentially a lap pool. Can you follow me here? Turn this table into an aquarium and fill it up with water, and that's roughly the 1,400 gallons that are in 0.2 MCF. So that's a lot of water, and I think that we can just use that for forever now. This body should just memorize if this table were a tank, it's roughly equal to 0.2 MCF, and there you have it. That's all I wanted to share.
Or I'm envisioning 1,400 one-gallon
Jugs of water.
jugs of water sitting
I'm
in my
envisioning
back-
you
sitting in my
slinging those
backyard.
gallons at people.
All right, any other questions on 446, 2024? Seeing none, 446, 2024 stands approved. Please sign up. Director, and to our friends at Stanek, thank you very much. I know,
WPC?
oh, WPC's next. Well, WPC, yeah. Stanek stand for WPC. Which one's that? That's 4.
Oh, you can stay, Commissioner, if you want, sorry.
Because there's other pieces
Yeah,
after this
you're
one.
always welcome to stay.
I just thought.
All right, one not as in-depth. Ordinance 447, 2024, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An ordinance to amend section 543.02 and 543.03 of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 1393-2029, passed October 25th, 2021, relating to sewerage and service rates, fees, and charges. Director.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. As was previously discussed, we're hoping to get back into a cadence of having water and WPC rate studies presented at or around the same time in order to get then consistent rates that our customers can appreciate and expect for a reasonable amount of time. So it's a very similar study, very similar presentation for the Division of Water Pollution Control. Not necessarily certainly the support of council, but from a rate standpoint, we started trying to get the rate right back in 2022 with council's support. We're looking to continue that right sizing of the rate on behalf of our customers to get to those infrastructure improvements that we know need to happen throughout the division. And with that, I will do the same back to CFO Troy and then our partners at Stantec, joined by Commissioner Ramona Lowry Farrell and Deputy Commissioner Ryan Lopez.
Stantec worked with us again to do the WPC rate study in conjunction with the water rate study. Everything that we have gone through for water is pretty much what we did with WPC. They do have slightly different industry issues that are going on, which I believe are addressed in our study that we've talked about. If there's any additional, I believe Andy wants to not say any? No? I will pass it to Andy and see what he says.
Thank you, Catherine. I guess the point I would reemphasize for water pollution control is just the increasing underground infrastructure investment, trying to get on that replacement schedule that Dave mentioned a moment ago, where we're replacing 1% of basically our assets each year. And so we're still not all the way there, and this is a continued balance of the progression of infrastructure spending for underground assets, but also being cognizant of some of the affordability conversation that's been had as well. So it's balancing those two things with continued proactive and positive financial stewardship is really what the conversation has been about for WPC. And again, you're not alone in balancing these competing objectives to make sure you have a sustainable system.
And we'd be open to questions, Chairman.
All right, Director, there's a difference between the 0.2 MCF's usage and then looks like for water pollution control, it's just a 1 MCF usage rate.
So studies have shown that the lifeline rate makes sense for water because of how it is structured. For sewer rates, it is not the same. That was actually something we went through this current rate study. We were going to make sure that there was industry-wide, it is not a lifeline rate that is provided to the sewer system, through the sewer systems.
All right, and then there's also increases. The average residential home, is it a 5/8 to 1 inch meter?
Yes.
That would be the average residential home, right?
Yes, there's very few that are higher than 1 inch.
Okay. So when you're getting into 6-inch meters,
Those
that's-
are companies.
Those are, we know that's something that we're not working,
Commercial, industrial.
yeah, okay. And then there's an increase in permitting?
Yes, through the study, not only do we look at our monthly bills, we also look at the ancillary fees, and those permitting costs are cost of service, and so they have been brought up as those costs have increased over this time period.
And then to the director or the CFO, what would be an example that a resident would have to pull a permit for something? I mean, I understand, construction companies, if they're building something, or what would be an example, like, what would have to happen at my house that I would have to pull a permit for WPC?
Okay, to the chair, an example permit would be a lay permit. If you, say, for example, new construction, so if you had to, or an extend permit, if you had to do a connection from your home and tap into the street
Okay, does that happen often?
daily. It does happen.
Really? Okay. And then, in your bill, water pollution control is already on your water bill. So when you get your water bill, you're getting essentially two bills, your water bill and your water pollution control bill, correct?
Correct.
I have no other questions on 447. Does anybody else? Seeing none,
I
447,
just had a question.
Councilman Polensek.
What's the outstanding accounts receivable for WPC?
I would have to double check, but I believe it's hovering around 8.5 to 9 million.
Okay, so that would be, so how is that, that's a percentage, is that a percentage of your water bill? I mean, how is that established? We know you have a substantial amount of accounts receivable in water, but you pay your sewer, we pay our sewer bill, part of our water bill.
So all of the accounting for both water and sewer are completely separate. So
Totally
when you,
separate.
yes, so we see how much everybody's paying per bill.
Okay, so when you pay your water bill, you just don't, and your water and your sewer bill are combined, so wouldn't, if you had that amount of money in water accounts receivable, why wouldn't the amount of accounts receivable be higher in WPC?
If I could just correct too, your water and your sewer bill are two different things.
They are, they're
right?
separate,
I
but
mean,
you get one bill.
No, you don't get one bill. You get one bill for water and water pollution control, and then
Right.
Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer
Yeah,
District.
it's separate.
Is
But I'm
a
talking
separate bill.
WPC. You just said,
Right, through the chairman to the councilman, water pollution control is Cleveland proper only. Where
Okay.
Cleveland Water is a regional
so
system.
I understand that.
So that would be the
So
comparison.
So that's what you believe to be the significant difference in the accounts receivable.
That, as well as the rates have traditionally been lower for WPC,
Okay.
so their outstanding amounts do not accumulate as quickly.
So within the rate structure that's being proposed, WPC will be able to address outstanding capital.
Water pollution control
Enhancements.
will be able to continue to improve on addressing the capital needs in the system.
Okay. Okay, that's what is very important to me. I want to make sure that we have the ability to address issues in our neighborhoods as it pertains to sewers. We know a lot of our sewers are well over 100 years old in the city, and I want to make sure we have the capability to maintain those adequately throughout the city. So, and we're very fortunate, I should have said this earlier too, we're very fortunate, we have a very good commissioner in water pollution control, and we have a very good commissioner in water as well, so we're fortunate. Thank you.
All right, any other questions on, I just have one. Suppose a main breaks in Parma, right? We know water pollution control is responsible for Cleveland proper. Who would be responsible for fixing something like that if it happens outside the city of Cleveland?
Chairman, a sewer main, I assume you're talking about?
Yeah, whatever.
Or sewer, it would be that municipality. A lot of our suburban municipalities enter into agreements with the county, Department of Public Works.
All right, so do they ever rely on us to go out and fix it?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, any other questions on 447, 2024? Seeing none, 447, 2024 stands approved. Please sign up. Director, our friends at Stanek, thank you very much. You guys aren't local, are you? Where are you guys heading back to?
I'll be heading back to Tampa, Florida.
And Maryland.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate, yeah, but your grandchildren will move here.
Plenty of water.
Yeah, exactly.
Plenty of great water.
Thank you very much. I know, J.B. Bickerstaff was just relieved of his duties. Yeah. All right.
Going in order?
Yeah, in numeric order. In other news, ordinance number 443, 2024, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance determining the method of making the public improvement of constructing the Belvedere Avenue, Panna Lane, Mannering Avenue, Cortlandt Avenue, Victory Boulevard, West 50th Street, Longview Avenue, and Capitol Avenue areas sewer projects, including but not limited to installing manholes and catch basins, authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more public improvement contracts to construct the improvement, and authorizing the Director to employ one or more professional consultants necessary to design and implement the improvement and to apply for and accept funding. Director?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. This conversation is certainly appropriate after the conversation we just had, specific to water pollution control. These are capital projects in the Division of Water Pollution Control. We hope not only because of the rates being currently considered, but because we are considering to go out to the bond market this year in order to borrow to pay for these capital projects, we thought it would be appropriate to get it in front of council for consideration. Commissioner Lowry Farrell is happy to go over how these are prioritized, these projects specifically, in all of the things that that her and her team have to consider. But again, if the steps appropriate in going out to the bond market include the identification of the projects in order to then support the bond issuance, which we hope to be later this year.
Commissioner?
Okay, thank you. To the chair. As the director indicated with the projects, because we often get this question, it's pretty much a massive spreadsheet, I'm sure, as does water. And we go over various factors that are listed here with street collapses, illicit discharges, undersized sewers, deteriorating sewers. So if we had a big magic wand of $50 million, we'd do much more. But each year we just try to prioritize to see what's an immediate need. We do coordinate, we discussed earlier, with the other departments as well to see what they may have going on. Streets Department, for example, water, because we all circulate maps and try to coordinate to see if there's projects we can do at the same time. Some that have been successful have been Edgewater, for example, when we knew water was going out, so we coordinated to be out there at one time.
Okay. Is there a price tag on this one?
Approximately $13.5 million.
All right, any questions on 443, 2024, which is our sewer improvements? Seeing none, 443, 2024 stands approved. Please sign up. $479, 2024, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to employ one or more professional consultants to provide website hosting services, upgrades, and/or enhancements as needed, including maintenance for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year options to renewal exercisable by the Director of Public Utilities. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. We're seeking authority to go out to bid for website hosting for all 3 divisions. Anticipated cost to be approximately $275,000 for the divisions. We currently have a contract that is expiring later this year, and we are seeking authority to go out to bid to continue similar relationship.
Any questions on 479, 2024, website hosting? Seeing none, 479, 2024 stands approved. Ordinance number 480, 2024, by Councilmember Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with North Coast Process Controls, Inc. for proprietary valves, actuators, appurtenances, and other components of the valve actuator system and labor and materials needed to repair, replace, maintain, exercise, inspect, and test existing equipment, and to provide related services for the Division of Water, Department of Public Utilities for a period not to exceed 2 years. Director.
Thank you, Chairman. North Coast Process Controls, Inc. is the sole supplier of parts and services for Rotork and Versa valve actuator systems. Those are throughout our system, and the most important part of these actuators and valves is the interface with SCADA and the PCCS system that the Commissioner would be happy to talk through if there are any questions.
You know I'm not a fan of the competitive bidding, so these are proprietary.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
All right. We're in the wrong line of business. Any questions on 480, 2024? Seeing none, 480, 2024 stands approved. Ordinance number 481, 2024 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts, various types of machines, equipments, and repair parts for the Division of Water, Cleveland Public Power, Water Pollution Control, and Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Director.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So we do, in the Division of Public Utilities, throughout the divisions, use a lot of pumps, saws, small engines, backhoes, wheel and front-end loaders, skid steers. You'll notice that the previous contract expired in 2022. We did have authority to enter into another contract. We've bid it multiple times and have not obtained a successful bidder. We're hoping to get another vendor under contract soon. However, that ordinance was 2 years old. We're looking to get refreshed authority to enter into a contract for these services. We have done in each of the prior years requisitions, I think at both water pollution control and water, of less than $50,000 as we tried to get a vendor under contract, but we thought it would be appropriate to get additional legislative authority to, because we know that some of the equipment needed we are not going to be able to do by requisition. So we're hoping as we fine tune the bid docs, as we continue to evaluate the bidders, we get a successful bidder and we can make the necessary upgrades and maintenance and acquiring of this equipment to serve our customers.
Director, we haven't fallen behind yet needing equipment yet, have we?
Chairman, we have not, but we know we need to update some of these
Right.
things in the very near future.
Okay.
So we need it.
Is there a dollar amount on this?
Anticipated cost to be approximately $455,000.
All right. Any questions on 481, 2024? Seeing none, 481, 2024 stands approved. And ordinance number 526, 2024 by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to employ one or more professional consultants to provide general training and development of employees and to enter into a contract with Operating Training Committee of Ohio, each for a period of 2 years with 2 one-year options to renewal, exercisable by the Director of Public Utilities. Director.
Thank you, Chairman, and Executive Commissioner Graham did do a lot of work on this ordinance. You'll notice that there's actually 2 separate components of this ordinance. One is to go out to bid for the training aspects of what we do for our employees. Those contracts are currently with Tri-C and Kent State, with both expiring in November of this year. OTCO is something that the Commissioners and the Department of Public Utilities has a long relationship with. They are a state certified water and industry leader for training in water, wastewater, and water distribution systems in compliance with the Ohio EPA required contact hours. So it's go out to bid on our employees' training and opportunities, and then a award to OTCO, who has the credentials in the state of Ohio to give our employees the necessary certifications and continued compliance.
$112,925, is that enough for training to meet the OTCO requirements?
Chairman, yes, and that's actually a slight increase to where we were previously.
So we can train everybody that you want under this contract for that amount of money?
That is our intention.
Okay. Any questions on 526, 2024? Seeing none, 526, 2024 stands approved. This time, does anybody on the committee have anything for miscellaneous for the director?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Bishop.
So just briefly, can I get an understanding of these rate increases? When are they gonna see this in their bill? Is it the first of the year?
Chairman of the council member, yes, in the ordinance, it is, I believe it
January
says
1.
January 1, 2025.
January 1?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all right, that's all.
Anything else? All right, this time, we will adjourn the Utilities Committee until the call of the chair, which will not be until probably maybe one time over the summer if needed, but definitely not before we recess. All right?